Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It be Friday, and so we have a Khyber Shards Answers, and we are joined by this guy.
What did I do?
So I have, before we get into the viewer questions, I had a few that were transmitted to me by the watch party on Monday.
Okay.
First question. Who do you think you are? And follow up, what gives you the right? And to summarize, how dare you, sir? How dare you?
All of these fair questions. I assume we are discussing me and Daine having had our very friendly, super civil conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In which his intentions were definitely not misrepresented at all. I don't know, man. It wasn't me. It was Pog. Can't we all still be friends?
We can. I can't speak to the viewers.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think most importantly is the fact that Pog really dislikes the fact that, I mean, and he's made this statement before about how we always talk about things. We talk things out and make plans. And it's been kind of a joke, but Daine has always presented himself above that. Daine just goes, I'm doing this, and literally leaves and is only there to drop something which causes division and is never there physically present for the resolution to it. And regardless of whatever tension or troubles are going on between Pog and any of the party members, that's the family. And like, you've got my family arguing and you're not there because at the end of the conversation, Ari had spoken for Daine more than Daine had spoken for himself. And you be here. Why am I fighting with my brother who's just on your side? Come fight your own side. And then for some reason, Daine is on the flip side, completely incapable of letting someone walk away from a conversation themselves. Like, he walked over. Pog just wanted to say the one thing, just the one little moment. And he took the 2 shots of liquid courage to go do it. And then Daine goes, well, we should have more of a talk about this. Which, as a player, I went, oh boy. I mean, I'm not prepared to defend this.
That was the thing is I think what I don't know where I decided this along the way, but somewhere along the way I decided that Daine is someone who takes no crap. He and who doesn't, like, Daine doesn't do big talk. Daine doesn't talk a big game that he doesn't back up. And Daine takes no crap. Ezreal wants to come over, punch Daine, and then walk away as if that's all we're going to say. Like,
oh, no, I get that.
Like, and Pog wants to come over and say, how dare you not listen, and then walk away. Like, that's, like, Pog, or Daine is too old to allow these punk kids to walk up and act like they're going to lay the truth on him. And I think that's one of the that's honestly one of the characteristics I really enjoy playing in Daine. And so I appreciate that you guys keep giving me opportunities to exercise that trait of Daine by trying to pull punk young person crap on this guy who's, seen some stuff.
And I think that's another factor of Daine, which really bothers Pog, is Pog and the Strike Force have also seen some crap. Yeah. And we could have the measuring contest all day long of who's seen more, who's seen worse. But for their years per capita, the Strike Force has been through some stuff, dude. Like,
sure.
And Pog may not be the one who wants to do the talking, and definitely doesn't think he should be the one that does the talking, but does believe the strike force should get to have a voice. And
sure,
Daine did not allow that when he just said, I'm not interested in hearing anything you have to say, and left. I'm doing this. That's what I mean. It wasn't not interested in what you have to say, but I'm not going to listen. I'm going to leave. You're with me or not. And it's not with or against, it's with me or not. And Pog's not an ultimatum guy, you know? And then you walk out and the family starts fighting.
I think contextually, from Daine's perspective, it's he has just had this argument with someone way more qualified to have it.
Yep.
Like you guys walked into the end of the argument. I'm not going to sit here and repeat myself. Here is the point. You guys decide what you're going to do. I'm going to go.
Colin full-blown gets it.
I'll be here if you want. Yeah.
Colin 100% gets where Daine is coming from about like, hey, y'all are 20 and good at fighting, but like, I don't have all day for your feelings. I understand this. I'm with Daine in that regard. But the 20-year-old with feelings is who I have to continue playing. And he got feelings. Yeah. That's the struggle. And so that's why I'm not trying to make it a cop-out. It wasn't me. It was Pog. I didn't do it. It
remarkably for because there were a lot of big reactions to it. Remarkably, there are no questions about that conversation. There's not a single question about that conversation, which I found fascinating. There are a bunch of questions. There are none of them about that conversation.
I feel like for now and forever, I have no choice but to interpret that as everyone in the watch party co-signing my opinions, and I will no longer be disproved of that.
I think
that is what it is.
I think one of the great things for me, and I don't consider this spoiler because that conversation is over, and its consequences have begun to unwind. Afterward,
hang on, that conversation caused the consequences. Don't you put this evil on me, Ricky Bobby?
There are consequences of the conversation that have begun to unwind. You and I talked, and you expressed that Pog felt really frustrated that Daine was saying, I'm not coming back around anymore. And I said, well, from the way I read Pog's really strong intro to that introduction to that conversation was, your trouble, don't come around my house anymore.
And this is one of those great moments of having the filmed medium. Yeah. I was able to watch it back and go, yeah, I get how he got there. I stand by the intention of my speaking. And if you see it through my lens, I think it's there. If you see it through Daine's lens,
sure.
I don't think either of us misread what was presented to us. For me, It was Pog going, hey, come around differently. Don't keep doing this the way you are, but presented with a don't come around anymore tone to it.
Practically launched into a Tom Petty song. With a really
Thor's gonna be creepy, mad at me.
Really creepy music video. I like that because it's very real. There is always the temptation in this medium to go, well, that's not what I meant to say. That's not like I wasn't trying to say don't come to the mansion anymore. And so let's, Daine's surely insightful enough to know what I meant to say.
Right. I really enjoy it, and I find myself very conscious of trying to skirt that line because while I'm frustrated, there's no reason for Pog to think he was misunderstood. I mean, you said I won't come around anymore. I mean, that's your call. That's you telling me your thought. It's not because I said anything. So there's no reason for Pog to ever have a clarifying conversation, and Daine has his full understanding, so there's no reason. And Eric and I have had long conversations about how we wished in the moment we would have expressed things more clearly in our characters' conversations. But there's also no reason for one of us to go, hey, you want to have a cup of coffee? I've got a list of things I think you might have heard me wrong about, and fix it. We very much are living with our consequences, and I'm loving it.
What's the there's like a German expression that translates to stairway conversation, where you get out of a conversation and then you're halfway down the stairs when you realize what you should have said.
What you should have said. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that. And I think that reads with the youth of the characters too. I mean, like, I realize that some of it is also, it's not less true as adults that we say things and then realize, oh, I really shouldn't have said it that way. But I think it really reads to the youth of the, like, Ari's freeness with the word genocide, that read as that's such a 20 something thing. Is like, I'm just gonna throw this word out there. This isn't a loaded word.
Yeah, I get it for sure.
So it is, and it's part of the fun and frustrating dramatic irony of being the player, that you can think what your character should have said to get the point your character really wanted across. And I can think what the NPC should have said to get, I don't know, an outcome I would have liked better or something like that.
Right.
But in the moment, we're role-playing. We're playing those characters, improvising. And sometimes, like, occasionally there are moments where it is really, where it's just frustrating because it's, well, I totally forgot this piece of information from earlier in the game, and my character wouldn't have and would have behaved entirely differently. But I don't think any of this was that. I think this was entirely, everyone was playing their character. Everyone was talking in character with all of the information they needed for this conversation. And nobody really made their point very clearly. And so we've got a lot of characters who don't quite understand one another's intentions.
But they all think they did. They all think they made their points crystal. Which is a fun frustration. I don't know if that's typically a fun frustration, but I think we've got the group for it. That we like the shifting dynamic. This isn't the family force here that just unquestionably backs each other. Like, we get to have these misunderstandings and these problems. I enjoy it. There's not been an occasion in this game for me to go, boy, I wish this was Life is Strange and I could back it up to that moment and redo. I've messed up some of the combat encounters, but other than that, I really enjoy having consequences to the role play. I'm nervous knowing that there will be consequences to Daine having read it that way. But Colin's super excited to see what you have the effect of Thora and Daine be. Like, how does me having spoken for the house affect their dynamic, which is already deeply affected? It's a fun consequence. There's no reason for me to go chasing you down to clarify right now.
Right.
Pog was mad.
Well, here's a slight bit of information as to what I realized going out of it. Was one, in the initial interactions, Pog was super starstruck by Daine. And Pog is the one that pulled Daine onto that ship. Pog is the one who didn't leave Daine behind when he fully intended to be left behind so you guys could get out. Pog is the one who decided, no, we're not doing it that way. I'm not, that Daine's not getting left behind, and hauled him up onto the ship. And so I really enjoyed, it was the sort of thing that if we were writing this out ahead of time, we'd have planned for impact. But I really enjoyed that the moment played out between Daine and Pog, because while we haven't, had enough opportunity to really develop relationships with Daine, we've placed some weight on the relationships with Daine throughout the show. And it was fun to see that that play out in its own way here. Because fundamentally, and this probably as far as I will go in talking about this, because obviously eventually it will come back around in the show. Fundamentally, Daine's perspective is, how many times do I have to prove myself before someone just takes me at my word that we got to do this? Like, how many things do I have to have done? How much proof do I have to have shown? How much evidence do I have to have gathered before, when I say we just got to do this, we actually do it?
And I think that's what's interesting is Pog is the one who's there. He's on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We sure do. So why are you leaving me to speak for your side? And everyone's arguing. Like, come tell them. And we should. And the weight of the relationship was in my mind in the decision to confront. And that's why I said that you saved my life and I'll never be done saying thank you for that. Then it was an intentional choice to not reference that I also saved yours.
Yeah.
That is a Colin choice, because Pog doesn't think about who owes me. It's still very much like, I'm for you. I owe you. Why aren't you doing this right so we can be with you? And not having, it's very hard, because I think that if Colin would have sat down and had a conversation over a beer with Daine, we wind up going back to the mansion, convincing Shade to go with us. Ari would probably come and die, and Ezri would still be giving away all of his stuff. And and we would have gone. But Pog, I can't have this conversation of like, hey, you didn't do what you think you did. Your interpersonal skills are weak. I can't have that moment.
For me, the one thing I don't know if I portrayed as well as I would have liked to, like the thing that, you and Eric were saying, I wish I'd expressed this better for my character. The one thing that I don't know if I expressed as well as I might have liked for Daine is that while Daine and Thora have gone their separate ways on this thing, like this is a continuation of the argument that they've been having ever since Thora left the organization that she and Daine started in Sharn. This is still that argument. They've been having this argument for months, if not years. And so the argument is much older for Daine than it is for the Strike Force. And I don't know that I conveyed that well. But also this is Daine coming to his old friend, who is still his friend, and saying, okay, look, that went badly, but I was right. Yeah. I was 100% right, and I have the evidence, so I just need you to trust me and do this. And Thora not being willing to. Thora saying no, because Thora's priorities are shifted. Like, Thora has to consider other things before she acts. And Daine has... The reason Daine doesn't run a school is so that he can say, y'all argue about it, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's why Daine doesn't have any interest in being vice principal.
Boy, that'd be a school.
Thora has to think about, what will this do to the thing that I'm doing here? And Daine doesn't want to have to think about that, which is why Daine doesn't run an institution like this. And I don't know if I expressed that side of it, the internal conflict, well, because it's never very fun as the GM when it's often inevitable, and sometimes it's very necessary, but it's never really fun when you are forced to have a conversation with yourself.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I wrote out what Thora and Daine were going to be saying when you guys got back to the mansion. Now, I wrote it out for 5 episodes prior, but I had it written out because because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to improv that scene in an impactful way. And so that's very hard to do. And I think that's a place where, as a DM, you often find yourself like, I didn't give that scene the weight it would have if I had multiple actors available to step in
and
read the work for me. So it's that's the place where I don't know that I did it as well, but I enjoyed the whole scene, and I enjoyed the scene with Pog because it is always fun for me when Pog speaks his mind, because Pog often holds back in the presence of the better talkers. And it is always fun to me when Pog, or when Shade for that matter, speak their mind. We got a little bit of Shade speaking her mind in this episode, which I thought was fun.
I think that without ever having spoken about it, Casey and I are very much on a similar place with our character growth, in that when it comes time to negotiate something, Pog and Shade are going to stand shoulder to shoulder and try to understand what's happening. But as far as sitting at the Strike Force table, we have thoughts, and we know that the other two can understand when we don't speak well, but our intention for the most part. And we're kind of ready to do more of that, because Shade and Pog, again, without ever having talked about it, are kind of tired of everyone that we know getting into trouble and needing help, when we could just go take care of trouble. And that's where we play into a lot of miscommunication. For the sake of that, is Shade and Pog really latch into the word waiting. The word that Ari keeps using over and over, of waiting, staying, making safe, defending, is an idea that Shade and Pog both are not co-signing at this point. Like, we should be going forward. Like, why are we always on the defense? And so it was really satisfying to sit here and watch Eric and Casey role play, and to hear Casey evolve Shade to a place where she started to have similar natural thoughts to Pog's, which it's going to be fun to continue to play, see how those dynamics shift, because I think Thora and Daine kind of provided the outline for the natural evolution of where these characters are headed if things don't clear up between them.
Yeah, I think so. Well, we have several questions.
Let's do this.
Emily starts us off with vital information that we must have.
Okay.
What flavor of ice cream would Pog like?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm gonna say I really think Pog would like birthday cake ice cream.
I can see that.
There's something so delightful and yet light about birthday cake ice cream, that I think that would be the exact right kind of treat for a Pog.
Nice.
That's my answer there. Good question, Emily. Ooh, not ready for that.
Laura inquires, and they say this is an assumption based on an answer to the last KSA, so I hope you remember that, because I didn't think to go back and look. Why does Pip hate animals?
What? I don't know. Does he? I genuinely have no idea why I would ever have given that impression. Pip probably, I don't know, man. In my head, Pip is probably the dude who was living in the back alleys and sleeping under tarps and surrounded by stray cats. So they probably just didn't get affected by the dander because of all the rain on him, because he was Charlie Brown's dirty friend. Linus? Is it Linus? No, who's the dirty one?
Linus, yeah. It's Linus.
No, I just I don't think. Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I can't think of a reason why Pip would be anti-animal.
Yeah. Well, let us know, Laura, and we'll get you an answer. Laura would also like to know whether we can have a Polarca check-in. Yep.
Nope. There's no time. Yep. We have no time. So maybe next time.
Yep.
Next time.
Things are moving too quickly.
They are. Philip and I need to have a conversation on the Polarca check-in, but we can't give you one right now. I'm sorry.
What does Pip do to try and make friends with Mo?
Okay, here's the thing about Pip. Pip believes he is friends with everyone. Pip absolutely believes that
he believes.
Yeah, he believes wholeheartedly. And so what he does to try to maintain friendship with Mo is basically never leave his side. Always there. Like thinking that Mo is very lonely, not understanding someone who is a bit hermetic and tries to keep him from being lonely, and so is there all the time.
Which also answers their follow-up. Does he think they're friends already? Yes.
Out
of everyone in the mansion, who would Pip most want to room with?
Okay, this is an easy question. And hear me out, because I promise it's not a cop-out. He would want to room with Pog. Because Pog has the biggest room and a private bathroom. Let's never forget that Pog has the biggest room outside of Thora's, and he's not really been there. He's only been there for like a few weeks of school, and then he goes traipsing off for long periods of time. So that would leave Pip to have the largest room with an ocelot, and he's an animal person as of this KSA, and his own bathroom. So, and I think Pip would probably
when Pog's gone, Pip uses Pog's room.
Yeah, and I think Pip sleeps in the bathtub. It's nice.
Awesome.
It's nice. Yeah.
It's
plenty
nice.
of space for him.
Emily has been asking this of all of our cast. Generally speaking, do you enjoy time travel in stories? And what story do you think did time travel best?
I love time travel stories. I would even go broader and say I love time manipulation stories. So, movies that are set in loops, Source Code, Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day, these things are really fun for me. I like that structure, and I like seeing how different creators are able to break rules within those structures. Time travel, I love it. I love it because I know Eric referenced Looper. I love it because it allows the storytellers to define their own rules, because they are creating their version of realistic. Time goes forward. It's what it does. It's all it does. It's the only way it can go. So if you're going to say that we can go backwards, you can make your own rules up. And I think it's the same as vampires, as werewolves. Just tell me what makes sense in your version. Tell me why and how. And so the more thorough or the more creative in the breaking, the better for me. My favorites, I'm going to exclude time loop movies. So not Tenet or any of the previous ones. I love Interstellar, which is the only time travel at the Revelation. But for me, I would probably say 12 Monkeys is my favorite time travel movie. Terry Gilliam directing, so you are not ready for what the next scene visually looks like at any point in that movie. The start of Bruce Willis being serious and Brad Pitt as basically three different characters in one character when we go through the fractured mind and a fractured timeline. I think it's a blast. I love 12 Monkeys.
Cool. Between Thora and Daine, whose plan do you think Pip would be most likely to support?
Moe's. Yeah, whatever
Solid.
route Mo went, I haven't gotten all that. I mean, none of us really have gotten all that kind of role playing time, except maybe Eric, with our students to be able to know for sure which route they would go. So I guess if I give that answer, the kids would probably follow whichever way had adventure. So probably Danes. And they're really not scared of being out of the mansion because it's all still new to them. But I will safely say Pip would not be willing to make a decision that required him to be the only one that went. He's been searching for this belonging and is not ready to jeopardize it.
Sure.
And then Emily asked you, while I suspect you hadn't anticipated the ice cream shop itself, were you already planning to give Arya Forgotten Prince quest right around now, or was that a spur of the moment decision?
So first off, as has proven eerily common now, Emily knows what I expected and what I didn't expect to happen. So, well done. Still holding on to the same brainwave length that I'm on. Or stop reading my notes. I don't know which one. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. I did not anticipate the ice cream shop. I had no idea what Eric was doing when all of a sudden Eric's like, come on, I want to show you a picture of the, I don't know why I started to Foghorn Leghorn here, but now Arya's now from Louisiana. I want to show you a picture of the world I think we could live in. And I'm like, what's happening now?
When he said, y'all want to go on a field trip? Your face was like, who do what now? And I wasn't ready to be Pip.
Sorry, wait, what? Yeah, I'm generally like, I'm cool with players setting a scene and that sort of thing, but I'm usually more in the loop when that happens. Like, and this, I was like, hey, I don't have any idea where we're going, man. You want to give me a hint?
You're driving.
Why we're going there, or what?
That's
and
fair.
whether it will move us any closer to a decision. But
spoiler alert. No.
I don't know. I think it moved things close. It got there towards the end, but yeah. So I was utterly lost, and looking at the timestamp and like, man, I've played a lot with Eric. I trust Eric, and I'm sure this is going to be something, but I just have no idea what it is. So yes, you're absolutely right. That was entirely unknown to me. And then it's Ben and Jerry's, and then we go to the ice cream shop, and I didn't want to just go like, all right, you guys go get ice cream, you go back. And so I start scrambling while the characters are talking. Luckily, Colin and R.A. bought me some time by goofing around about how many flavors of ice cream can I have and that sort of thing. And that gave me a little bit of time to think. I am very silent, and there's lots of pauses as if suddenly there's an expectation that I'm suddenly going to run the scene again. Excuse me, sir. You have seized the con. It's on you. And so I was using the time where the players are talking to each other to figure out, okay, what's happening now and what is my job in it? And I figured out right about the point that I opened my mouth and that voice came out of it. Because that also, what is the gnome going to sound like? I don't know. Is it going to sound like whatever comes out of my voice right now? Okay. Apparently that's what it is. So no, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was absolutely making up that nonsense. And then they're sitting and eating, and I started to kind of get an idea of what Eric was doing. And I had been every now and again kind of kicking myself. I was like, man, you got to put some of those things in his path. You got to give him some of the tasks. Otherwise, we're going to get to like 3 episodes from the end of the campaign. I was like, oh, by the way, you must steal these 12 things right now. And so I've been kicking myself for not remembering to do it. And then the scene started to take on a life of its own once I started talking in that gnome voice. I was like, and of course they've got a decanter of endless toppings and it's all magic and we're going to do, all these things. And I don't know where in the scene I decided, oh, well, obviously the Forgotten Prince wants the jar of endless whipped cream. I don't know where it is in the scene, but there just was a point in the scene where it had gotten just silly enough that I was like, Puzzle Dust should come in here. And then we were there. Like, that's kind of my memory. This was a while ago, so I'm not very fresh on the mental process of how I got there. But it moved from, I have no idea what this is, to making up a voice somewhere between my lungs and my mouth and my lips, to just spitballing what it looks like for a gnome to do this. I mean, you can see it developing if you're watching. It's like, you can have all of them. It's called a Bigby's hand, and there's 5 flavors. Like, there's nuts. These little clipped pauses where I'm, there we go. Okay, I got it. Where I'm just making it up. And I think it's somewhere around the whipped cream jar that I realized that Puzzle Dust needed to show up. And once I had Puzzle Dust in there, it was, I know why Puzzle Dust is here. He wants that. Because I especially wanted the first one to be something that was a little bit silly. Because I didn't want it to be, I don't know, the bit in Guardians of the Galaxy where Rocket convinces Quill that he needs that guy's eye, it's an arm. I need that guy's prosthetic arm.
I need his arm.
Like, I didn't want it to be like something like that Ari is going to be like, oh no, that's horrifying. Right. I wanted it to be something kind of silly, and it was particularly it was pleasant to do because Eric put me in this weird situation. So let's toy with it a little bit. Let's have one up the weirdness. And yeah, let's just lean into it. Once you're in the situation where we're in a gnome run ice cream shop that's operated by magic, then hey, let's just Willy Wonka the heck out of this. And so that's kind of where it came in. So that's a long way of answering your question, but I had been looking for an opportunity and also for a thing that was silly enough to be a good first one. And Eric inadvertently created the perfect scenario for that to happen, and I seized on it. So as with many of the great things that have happened to this campaign, it arose out of a character doing something I didn't expect, and there being a hook somewhere in there that I was like, that one, and grab. Right. So
it was a lot of fun.
I love it. It was a very funny scene, and it brought some levity to what was otherwise kind of a heavy episode. So I enjoyed that. Nathan asks, what kind of comfort, guidance, or wisdom did Pog find at the Church of the Silver Flame? And in your mind, did whatever Pog find there come from the flame or from within himself?
It's a very good question. So this may be the first time that I'm guilty of metagaming on a true level. I know that from experience and having made these mistakes, I know that Philip's not going to give us a decision. He's not going to answer for us. And so I chose to take Pog to the Silver Flame because that is becoming a place that naturally is somewhere for Pog to go. But I wanted Pog to be told there is not a right and wrong decision. There is good to be done. And the encounter went exactly the way I hoped that it would, by taking him to encounter someone. And this is, I don't know if I'm misusing the term here, but some of the table talk has been Philip just letting it be known, like, it's not my style to make a decision. I'm not going to tell you which way is right. And so it was me with that knowledge going, well, Pog needs to hear that. I don't have a way for Pog to get into a conversation with Esri at all right now, or with Ari and have any civility at this moment. And Shade is usually going to be less confrontational, or in Pog's mind, not to speak shade for Casey, but in Pog's mind, Shade will be more on his side if he were to feel deeply compelled about something. So I needed Pog to go somewhere that told him that right could be done, and that both options were open and viable. That made it more palatable for Pog to go, okay, well, this time. And Pog is not done saying his piece about that discussion. But that conversation, to answer the second part, I think would be something that he knew, but needed confirmed. And there's something so comforting in the character and in the way Philip and I have been able to develop that relationship, while it's very young between the priest and Pog. There's just something so understanding about him, and Pog doesn't have the life experience to go, oh, this is just how the dude talks to people, because people always come here when they're hurting. Pog just goes there when he's hurting, and this guy has been there to talk to him, and for him to, in so many words, say, you'll find the right path. He just needed to hear that from someone who was objective, because home is not a place of unity right now.
I was really glad that we got to have that conversation as well, because I have enjoyed every visit of Pog to the Flame. I enjoyed really freaking Pog out when the Flame talked to him. Like, I enjoyed all of those things. But what I didn't want it to become, because I really like the Silver Flame in Eberron, and I really like the way it's described, and I really like the way that Keith Baker has developed it. And so I wanted to do that, and I didn't want it to become a more traditional fantasy god for Pog to come and ask, and the god just answers like any other person, because the Flame isn't exactly a person. It's a force in the world. And so I'd been trying to find a way to direct Pog to the priest rather than to the Flame itself, because I wanted to represent real faith through the priest, who's not constantly hearing the voice of the Flame telling him what to do. He believes in what the teachings of the Silver Flame are, and he tries to do them. And that's faith as it exists in our world as well. I'm really glad we finally got to have a conversation where the priest could give Pog a little more clarity on what it means to follow the Silver Flame when you aren't hearing voices from it.
In the best way possible. I, as a player, left that interaction with a fond memory of what some of the really healthy interactions I'd had with my youth minister felt like. And so that's where the Pog side, like, that's exactly what I was looking for. Someone who just goes, do the right thing. This decision isn't a right or wrong decision. When you've made a decision, do the right thing. Was really powerful. And it for the character was a really nice moment of that the Silver Flame is not a source of power. The Silver Flame is a thing that helps those who do good. And I really enjoyed that interaction. So a little column A, little column B, Nathan. He got what he needed to get and more. It came from within and without in that interaction.
Nathan asks, more broadly, what are Pog's opinions on frozen dairy products? Does Pog have a broader opinion on the whole category of the frozen dairy-based dessert?
All yogurts except whatever the Eberron version of Greek is, because Greek yogurt's gross. I'm going to say, as a dude who manipulates flame, he's probably a big fan of frozen treats. It's, it's a lot easier to control when you're capable of punishing the thing that gives you brain freeze by setting it on fire. He's for him, Nathan. He's for him.
I love this question from Laura. What would Pog's favorite video game be?
Oh man, I did not read yesterday's question editions, so I'm not ready for this one. What would Pog's favorite video game be? My initial reaction is Guitar Hero. I don't know if I've been clear enough about the fact that Pog really likes music. And so Guitar Hero, he can't do it. He teases Ari because he can't play songs. He can't make music, and he's kind of jealous of that fact. So maybe Guitar Hero. Flappy Bird after that. He would definitely take a phone battery from 100 to 0 playing Flappy Bird.
And then if he played D&D, what class would he play?
Sorcerer.
Nice.
He would be the opposite of what he is. He would play pure caster. 100%. Because cool. Magic is magical. Yeah. And it's been, even what he can do has been surprising to him at points.
Yeah. And then Nathan asks, this also returns to an earlier question, but perhaps in a way that might be a little easier for you to answer. Does Pog intend to talk to Solarka about this dilemma, his options, is the way Nathan puts it, but this dilemma?
This dilemma, no, because a decision has been made, and the decision does not involve them leaving. But yes, because Pog is not married to this always being the decision. And so there is definitely if it was, hey, the whole group wants to go, we got to go have this battle, he's going to go talk to Solarka. But since the decision was everybody go to bed here, he's not going to.
Yeah.
But Pog's unsatisfied with that resolution, and the fact that it's on the table now means it will be again. So yes, full intention to have a conversation about what does that mean? Do you join? Do you wait? Do we call it? Fully intends. And also, Solarka is the only person outside of the strike force that he would go, am I wrong? He's actually, she's maybe the only person that he would say, am I wrong? So, 100% intend. 100%.
Awesome. Well, that concludes our questions for this episode. I'm glad we could get into this. This was a fun episode that we just put out, and this was a fun way to be able to unpack it. So thanks for taking the time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for these questions. This is so awesome. I really appreciate them.
Thank you all so much. If you'd like to submit questions, you can do so in comments down below. You can also do so over on our Discord, which you can find a link to down there, along with a link to our other social media, to our coffee, to our merch store, to the Geek Pantheon Patreon, to all the stuff. It's all down there. We are in the middle of a subscription drive when we get, and I've got some plans for each milestone. Our first milestone is just 100 subs. When we hit 100 subs, We're going to give away a handmade dice bag made by Lazy Fox Creates with the Khyber Shards logo on it. So if you have watched this and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll do a drawing for that as soon as we hit 100. New episodes of Khyber Shards drop every Monday. New Khyber Shards answers every Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.